Okay, Hume has one final challenge for us. He says, I think I've given you reason to be skeptical of claims to knowledge that are arrived at a priori. Claims that are true by logical necessity, because those are fairly trivial, meaningless kinds of claims. And I think I've given you reason to be suspect of synthetic statements, a posteriori statements about reality, because we can never be certain that you're actually reporting your psychological state of mind, or you're offering a statement of knowledge about reality. We'd have no way to distinguish between those, and so therefore we need to be skeptical of all a posteriori claims. Now Hume looks at us and he says, but even still, I'll bet you're certain that you know you exist. I'll bet, Hume says, you are 100% certain that you have to exist because, as your pal Descartes showed you, to doubt your existence requires that you exist as a doubter. Therefore, it will be logically impossible for you to not exist. To say I don't exist requires that you exist in order to make that claim. So what Hume's going to do is he's going to make a request of us. He's going to say, I want you to imagine any moment in your life and your consciousness, and think about the types of things that are in your consciousness. You're going to have thoughts. You're going to have impressions of things. You're going to have memories of things. You're going to be thinking about scissors or tacos or something. And what Hume says is, now I want you to imagine that you're able to do this. You're able to go on this sort of Zen retreat, and you're able to remove one by one every single thought you have, every mental impression that you have. You're able to remove from your consciousness all your memories. And Hume's going to say, so what's left? What if you're a thinking thing, as Descartes claims, and you remove all the thoughts, what's left? What is there? What is this thing that thinks? This sense of self that you claim has to exist. Okay, so you might ask this question. Without any fleeting mental contents, what's the nature of this self we identify as our meanest? The thing that we feel like we're 100% certain has to exist. And what Hume is saying is, well, not so much. Because there's a difference between existing as a thing that thinks, as Descartes says, I think therefore I am, and simply being a thought, a fleeting thought at that. And so Hume is saying, Descartes, I don't think you can be as certain that you exist in the way that you think you do. Okay, you have reason for being skeptical that this stable self that you claim to be a logical necessity actually exists in reality. Okay, you can see it sort of in this cartoon here, Descartes making his impression on the modern world. It says, René Descartes, I think therefore I am. And then it says, Ernie, you're disappearing, because Ernie apparently isn't a terribly thoughtful person. All right, so what has Hume done here? Well, one of the things he's done is said, I don't think you have good reason for believing in the self, in the world out there, in God, in cause and effect. I don't think there's a proper justification for these things. And therefore, I don't think we can make any claims to knowledge about reality. And this led Hume to come to the conclusion, even though he loved philosophy, it led him to the conclusion that human life may be totally incompatible with rationality. So on those cheerful notes, I want you to reflect back on your thought primer, and we'll have some discussion on the discussion board. And what I'm interested to know from you is this, do you think your understanding of the world out there is roughly similar to the way it is? And I'm even more interested in the question, and does it matter? Does that matter? Does it matter if the thoughts you have correspond to the way that reality is in some way? All right? So that's what we'll chat about and explore. That's one of the topics we'll chat about and explore on our discussion board.